Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to test our sensors, our analog sensors first. And so I'm going to go ahead and close my debugger window, and I'm just doing this to make sure everything is working okay. Your system might be set up and working fine. So I downloaded the program again. I have my debugger window open. If you don't have your debugger window open, you can click Robot. You can go to Debugger Windows and make sure you have a check mark by Motors and Sensors. I'll go ahead and click Sensors, and then I'll go ahead and click Start on my debugger status. And you can see that my sensors are working now. I have a range of sensors working, and we're going to look at the line follower first, which is an analog sensor. And so what I'm going to do is I have a white piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and put that white sheet of paper about 1/4 of an inch or so away from the top of that line follower sensor. And you can see that I'm getting a value somewhere between like 135 maybe and 165, and it's kind of bouncing around because I'm not holding it perfectly still, but you can see that value change. Take it off and you see the value jumps back up to about 3,000. Now I have a black sheet of paper. I'll put it about 1/4 of an inch away, and you see now I'm getting a value about 2,750 maybe to about 2,780, and again it's bouncing around a little bit. And so you can see that what that light or that line follower does is it detects the differences between light and dark, and so that's what it's doing. So go ahead in your engineering notebook and record those differences that you got with the line follower between the white sheet of paper about 1/4 of an inch and something dark about 1/4 of an inch. And so hopefully you figured out by now that what analog sensors do is they give you a range of values. And so I have a large range of values. The second one we're going to look at is the potentiometer. So I'm looking at my potentiometer setting right here. And on my potentiometer on my test bed, if I go ahead and start rotating that potentiometer counterclockwise, you can see that the numbers get bigger until I get all the way to the end and I get to 4,095. That's the maximum number for the potentiometer. If I turn it clockwise, my numbers are getting smaller until I hit the end of the potentiometer, and I get 0 degrees. And so one thing about a potentiometer that you need to know, it rotates between 0 and 265 degrees. This thing should not rotate all the way around, so don't force it with that gear on top of it and break the stop on the inside of the potentiometer. So just understand that it goes from 0 to 265 degrees and gives you values in a range between 0 and 4,095. So make sure you write those things down in your engineering notebook and you record your observations. The last analog sensor that we're going to look at is the light sensor. And so if I look at light sensor down here, I have a value bouncing between 113 and 114 right now. If I go ahead and take my finger and I cover up that light sensor, you see that I'm getting a value even into the 800s, 840, above 840 in some cases. And so what that light sensor is doing is reading the ambient light that is falling on the sensor. And so when there's no light, what number do I get? And when there's full light, the ambient light in the room, what number do I get? And go ahead and record those observations in your engineering notebook. Another thing that you can do is put your finger about halfway. Don't touch the sensor, but just raise your hand up and down on the light sensor and see what values you're getting. And so go ahead and record those observations in your engineering.